Welcome ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to take a look at the Dragonknight tank build for Morrowind. Now this setup is more or less made for the new trial halls of fabrication, however it works in every trial, it works in dungeons, etc. It is very important that you understand there is a lot of good options for tanks. This is just one version. I have a few other gear setups on my website. I will put the link in the description anyway, the written guide. And I will also put the link of Wöhler's website, which is about tanking everything, into the description. So you also can go check out his builds for Morrowind. Now, why is this build so strong, or why did people change to high health? Basically, we have unlimited resources. Like, I can spam Igneous Shield all day, more or less. Now, I do get a 20 to 25k shield. And my group members always get like a 10 to 14k shield every time I use Igneous Shield. That's one of the things why it's so strong, and it doesn't matter I have potions and all that kind of stuff. Just all the setups like health with a Dragonknight tank and resource management works very great. That's why Dragonknight tanks are like twice as good as any other tank setup here. Let's go through the build and I kind of try to explain why and all that kind of stuff. So first off, when we look at our stats, I still miss a few modifiers, like I don't have Undaunted, I only have level 1 Structured Entropy. So with Aggressive Warhorn, if you really want, you probably could get close to 80k health. The more health, the better, because the more health you have, the bigger your Igneous Shields gets, and the more Magicka you get returned. So I use the Lord Mundus Stone. We don't need the Atronach. Like, Magicka recovery is useless because we use the balance, the other morph of Spell Sim, which gives us like 10k Magicka back in one cast. Then I am a vampire. I highly recommend being a vampire simply because of this passive here. Reduces your damage taken by up to 33% based on your missing health while you are below 50% health. And if you have 70k health, at 35k health the damage mitigation already kicks in. That's why high health is really nice, and you just get insane damage mitigation. In terms of race, Argonian is actually the best choice. You get 9% health, and this here, Resourceful. Every time you drink a potion, you get 4620 health, magic and stamina back, on top of the 7600 from the potions. So that's more than 12k resources in one cast. When you look at me here, when I just use up all my stuff a little bit, try to, and then I press, bam, back to full health, back to full magic and stamina. It's just insane. There is no way you're going to run out of resources with this build, although it looks like you have really low resources. Another very important thing, in terms of race, like Imperial also works, you can use a Nord, anything works. It's just Argonian with this passive here is one of the strongest. In terms, there is one important thing, you need to have slightly more stamina than Magicka. Why? When you pick up an orb or a spear synergy, it always restores the resource that has more, like a higher stat. So we have a little bit more max stamina than Magicka, so we always get stamina back. And obviously, because we are always blocking, you want spears to return stamina or the orbs. So that's why we have slightly more stamina. That's why I have 10 points here. In terms of buff food, we're using the tri-stat one, like max health, max magicka, max stamina, and the tri-stat potions. Now if you're doing normal dungeons, or like just dungeons in general, you don't necessarily need to use those expensive ones, obviously. In terms of gear, so what you want to do on this setup is everything infused. You want infused armor, you want infused shields and infused weapons. I don't have the full Bessin slot. And place max health enchants on anything, on everything. I don't even run Bloodspawn because I just want more max health. It's just like everything scales so well with max health. I will show you in a second. However, if you want, Run Bloodspawn. It's totally up to you. You also can run Pirate Skeleton. Just make sure to run the Skeleton Polymorph if you use this. Because if you don't use the morph, the Skeleton Polymorph, and you transform into a skeleton, you will drop block for a split second. Now this has a health and one piece and the health bonus on one piece. That's why it's so good. Then I do use 2 like block cost glyphs, shield play enchantments. You can run 3. You can run a stamina cost reduction, a magicka cost reduction. Probably a magicka cost reduction might be better, but just play around a little bit. If you think, oh, you need 3, then go for 3. Same here, infused if possible, max health. And now the weapons, both should be infused as well. Like you can run a decisive on one, but I think infused is better because here the crush enchantment gets stronger. It usually is only like 1600 and now it's like 1900, and it reduces the cooldown of it. Same here, the weakening enchantment. Reduces target weapon damage and spell damage by 350. If it's infused, you will have a higher uptime and it will like reduce the weapon and spell damage of the enemy more. And this works on bosses, so they do less damage. And as you can see, all my gear is purple. If you gold out the stuff, I'm pretty certain you can hit 80k health with aggressive warhorn, undaunted, and all that kind of stuff. Ebon armor works, Alcast works, you can even run Tavas, but I just think the max health just scales way too good with a Dragonknight. That's why Plague Doctor and Green Pact. That's it about the gear. Let's check out the champion points. Now here, I have 1 point here because I didn't know where else to put it. 65 tenacity. When you do heavy attacks, you restore more stamina. In the new trial, you actually have time to do heavy attacks. You just really need to block the hard-hitting abilities, but you need to first learn that, obviously. Otherwise, you're dead. Tumbling 44 on Shadow Art 100. Like, reduces the cost of block by 25%. This is the most important one. I also do think it's more important to have some points in dodge roll rather than Warlord, because sometimes you want to dodge roll the hard-hitting abilities, so you get 0 damage. 100 in Blessed and 72 in Elfborn, simply to get a little bit more healing when we use healing abilities, but other than that it really doesn't matter. Like this here is actually 7 here and 31 here. There is jump points, like you need to understand what jump points are. I will put the link into the description as well. I have them on my website. The champion system in general is more front loaded, so you see, the Ironclad, it goes up to 25%, I think. With only 37 points, we already have 15% damage reduction from direct damage abilities. That's so much. 48 Thick Skin, 49 Hardy, 49 Elemental Defender. And you see, those two go up to 15%. And with only half the points, we already have 11%. So the last 50 points only give us an additional 4% mitigation. 23 in Bastion. You can put a few more if you want to get the bigger Igneous Shield, but I guess I like the setup this year. Now in terms of skills, same thing. There is a lot of good options. This is just one option that you have, but you can swap out skills. If you can't chain enemies, you don't need the chain here, obviously. So we have Structured Entropy, it's only level 1. If it's a level 4, I think it gives you 8% max health. That's why we also miss some like health percentage modifiers. That's only here to get you max health. Green Dragon Blood, now this scales off your max health as well. I have seen it crit for 60k. It probably, if you have more health, it can even get higher. This is just a panic heal more or less, because usually you have healers that heal you. Pierce Armor, this is your taunt. It also applies Major Breach and Major Fracture to the enemies, so it reduces their resistances, so your damage dealers do more damage. Igneous Shield, now this is one of the key aspects of the build. You see, Nearby allies that absorb 11k damage, your own damage shield absorbs 100% additional damage. This scales of health. If you have like 80k health, it probably gives your group members a 13 or 14k shield. And when I use it, you see I have 21k. If I have more health, the shield will get bigger. So I can absorb a ton of damage from bosses with using this shield every 1 or 2 seconds when it runs out, right? Balance. This also scales of health. So you see, we sacrifice 13k health. Doesn't matter because we have so much health. And we get back 8k magicka. And obviously it will be even more the more health you get. On top of that, it gives you Major Resolve and Major Ward, increasing your physical and spell resistance. So we do not need this ability here. This is enough. And that's one of the key points of the builds. You can like shield your group members because in the new trial, people don't know the mechanics. They take a lot of unnecessary damage. So you want to shield them. It has a limit of 6 targets. Now I think, yeah, I can only spam it twice, but you have balance. You just like it's going from 0 basically to more or less full. Only downside with this is that you see the exchange prevents you from healing yourself for 4 seconds. But you can receive healing from other players. So it doesn't matter, like most bosses are not gonna cut through a 20k shield in half a second, and you can spam this and your healer can continuously heal you. No problem. It's really cool. And that's why like this build is so strong. The more health, the better. Here you want to have aggressive Warhorn. I simply can't morph it yet. Gives you max stats like max health, magic and stamina 10% more. And it also gives the crit buff to the damage dealers and group, so they do more damage. And obviously, one important thing that I forgot to mention. Every time you use ultimate, you get battle roar passive. So when you activate the ultimate, you restore 56 health, magic and stamina for each point of the ultimate cost. So if you have 250 ulti cost, you can do this 250 ulti times 58, and that's the resources you will get. That's a lot of resources. And another key thing why we don't really run out of stamina is this helping hand. So helping hands. When you cast an Orphan Heart ability, you restore 990 stamina. Every time you use this ability, you get 900, basically 1k stamina back. So you can block forever. Those two things got changed now here a little bit. So it used to scale off your highest resource. Like when you had like 40k stamina, you got so much more stamina back than magic and health. But now it's based off your character's level. Everybody's level 50 anyway, so it's always more or less the same you get. So that's another thing why a Dragonknight tank got buffed. Doesn't matter how low his magic or stamina is, this always restores the same amount. Then back bar, another entropy to get the same health level. I have speed buff here, heroic slash. Now this is to get minor heroism and to apply minor maim to the enemy to reduce their damage by 15%. The grip to chain and the choking talons is like an AoE minor maim debuff. But again, those two, if they don't work on mobs, don't use them. You can use other stuff. If you want to run this in dungeons and people don't use spell power pots and that stuff, you can use Igneous weapons. Gives you spell damage and weapon damage buff. All that kind of stuff. Then I recommend running Shield Discipline. It's one of the morphs. I simply can't morph it yet. Basically you can, if it's level 4, you can perma block or like auto block without actually blocking. So you can do heavy attacks to restore resources while this is up. Just to showcase you, when we use the ability like this ulti, and look at my resources now, they go up by quite a lot. It's because I have this here, it's 100 ulti points, and it will give me like 100 times 55, so it's like 5,000 to 6,000 magic stamina and health. So I do think this is very strong. You can use magma if you want to. Like if you think it doesn't give you enough damage mitigation, then run magma shell. This is a really strong ability. It limits incoming damage to 3%. It's really strong, but I think this is slightly better. Once you know how to avoid the high damage abilities, this is just cheaper. You can use it way more and you don't really need to block while you have this active, because it blocks for you. But again, that's just preference. Use this if you want here. It's up to you. So that's kind of the idea behind the tank build. And you see, like, we will never, if you know how to time your things, like if you know when you're low on resources, use your ultimate, you get resources back. If you're low on resources again, you can use your potion to get resources back. And you can always spam Igneous Shield for stamina and magicka. Well, Igneous Shield for stamina, you see it's going up. And then balance for the magicka, and just keep going, doesn't matter. That's why I think like Dragonknight tanks are outperforming other tanks by so much, because everything scales so well with health, and you give huge group support to your members because you protect them with 11 to 14k shield. It's just completely crazy. That's kind of the idea behind it. Remember, there's more stuff like the Constitution, where you also get like 541 magic and stamina back every 4 seconds and all that kind of things. So I hope you understood the general idea behind the build. Now again, maybe once people know how to avoid damage, the tanks also take less damage, you can go with less health. Maybe you want to run Alcast or Powerful Assault. But at the moment, when you're unsure what to do, especially in the new trial, this is the best thing you actually can set up, no matter what happens. And obviously it also works in dungeons. Like if you want to do it in 4-man dungeons, the shields, it's gonna be crazy, because nobody's ever gonna get a lot of damage because you put 11k shields on them. That's more or less it. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comment section below. If you found the video useful, please press that sexy like button. I will do more build videos. Till then, thank you for watching and have a nice day. Cheers.